Hello and welcome to a new episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your host, Scott Orr. It's an exciting episode today because it's one of the first episodes, if not the first episode, where I've had someone here in the studio recording an episode live in person. Well, not live, but in person. Everything is usually over the phone. So it was so great to hang out with someone. So here's the interesting story. A couple of months ago, I found out that Ryan Hemsworth, who owns the label Secret Songs, is my neighbor. He lives right around the corner. In fact, if I opened up my window and threw this apple, if I had a good arm, if I had a decent arm, which I don't, I could probably hit his house. I'd have to get it up a little high over the other house, but I could hit his house. Anyway, we've been chatting, and so he came over and we chatted about his label. You can find out more about his label by going to Secret Songs, spelled SHH, secretsongs.com. Not a fun thing to say on a podcast, but that's the URL for it. Also, he had a project on Saddle Creek called Quarter Life Crisis that came out last year that is really good as well. You probably know Ryan Hemsworth. If not, you can Google him while I'm speaking. It was a huge honor to have him up here in the studio hanging out and chatting. I hope that you love this interview. It was so much fun for me. And Secret Songs is a really great label. And I was a part of a release on this label, and they do some really, really cool stuff. And Ryan has a really great philosophy behind the label and how he approaches doing things. It is quite different. So I think you're really going to enjoy today's interview. For all of our new listeners and our old listeners, remember, our website is becoming this collective of resources for potentially independent artists, but mostly independent record labels, people who are aspiring to start a record label, or for a lot of us already have a record label, whether that's something that's been around for only a couple of months or something that's been around for a couple of years or a decade. There are tools like a sample recording contract, our very popular record label toolkit, which contains just tons of resources in one free download. There's some brand new social media templates that I know a lot of you have been downloading for free. And so come to otherrecordlabels.com. There's a big link right there for our free resources that you can make use of to help you with your record label. Last time we got together, it was like kind of a little unseasonably cold.
Yeah.
Remember we were out for a walk? Because I was thinking like...
Yeah, I was kind of shivering the whole time.
Yeah, and I was thinking like a week before that it had been quite nice, and a week after that it had been quite nice, and it was kind of like this little gray day that was like 1 degree. And now today, we just can't seem to get it right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about, like, this is one thing I'm curious about, and I think I maybe asked you a little bit last time we talked, but like being an indie artist, also being signed to a label, been signed with various labels like Last Gang, Jag, Saddle Creek, and then having your own label with Secret Songs, do you think that gives you like a unique perspective that you've played all three roles?
I think so, yeah.
With running the label, I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, I have to learn stuff firsthand. So I think that's, starting the label was just sort of like I had a lot of producer friends at the time in like 2014, and a lot of people sending me stuff to like put in DJ sets or mixes or whatever, a lot of unreleased music. And I was like, hey, what are you doing with this? And people are just like, I don't know, just going to put it on SoundCloud or something. Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't have much to offer at the time, but I have like a bit of a following. Right. So at least you can kind of like use that as a stepping stone if I put it out. The like Secret Songs just started as kind of a very general collective, like early it was like Tennyson and like a bunch of different kind of weirdo kid producers like all around the world. It was definitely like connecting the people that I haven't met or wanted to meet. Right. And then it snowballed to like I could tour and then I could get these people to open for me or, play shows for them and put them on. So, yeah.
Tell me if I'm like projecting this or if this is true for you, but like from some of the research I did with how the label got started and even just what you said now, it feels like one of your roles or the role of someone in your position is to like not just empower the artist, but to like kind of nudge them and to say like, you
Mm,
should release this. This is really good. Because there's a lot of artists, like you obviously had confidence to release your own stuff at some point in your career. A lot of artists like have great stuff, but they don't think it's great. And or
yeah.
they're either lazy or scared of releasing it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's your job to say, this is great, let's get this out there.
That's it. I mean, I know so many artists, like some of my favorite music is unreleased,
Yeah.
just music that I think would be world changing.
Yeah.
But these, producers and different artists, like for whatever reason, there's a million reasons that I understand. Like it's just maybe they're not quite confident with
Mhm.
it, or they don't feel like it's the right time or the right way to, put it out
Yeah.
and do a rollout. And
Yeah.
that's a whole other side of things that people don't like to think about, obviously.
Yeah.
So I I don't like it either, but I can deal with it enough to be like, I'll do that part for you
Right.
if that like gets you one step closer to releasing it into the world,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sharing it with people.
Where do you fall on this spectrum of like some artists will want to write for 3 or 4 years, then pick the best 9 songs
Mhm.
and release just those, and then repeat that cycle for every 5 years, like Radiohead or something. Whereas
Mm.
other artists,
Mhm.
like as soon as they have an idea, they put it up on TikTok right away, or they put it up on SoundCloud. Where do you fall on that spectrum? Where do you think an artist should be on that spectrum?
Oh man, I think you should just be whatever feels totally right in that
Okay.
spectrum, and I think that spectrum should exist, and I'm
Yeah.
glad it does. I think there needs to be more respect for people that need to take that time
Okay.
because as everything accelerates and we're expected to deliver this stuff to Spotify and to audiences
Yeah.
constantly,
Yeah.
weekly, whatever. Um, I think the audiences need to also just know that that stuff takes time, and I think they do. I think it's more that the kind of the Spotify's and everything like are just sort of creating this monster that's just like accelerating, coming faster and faster.
Right.
So
That is true. Like, that's a good point. I don't really know where that, because I feel that too. I look at my Spotify and I go, okay, it's been 3 months like
mm.
since I've had something, and I feel this enormous pressure. But I doubt like my fans are out there, tapping their watch, going, "Come on, bud, let's,"
Yeah, I don't think so, and it sucks, yeah, when you realize that because I definitely, if I like go on my page and see something I put out this year or last year, I'm like, my first thought is like, wow, that's old. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm sure, it's probably not the most natural mindset, but we've just sort of like adapted it because
Mhm.
everything is accelerated through Spotify, TikTok, everything just being so.
Yeah. There is like a blurring of like social. I think social media has influenced our release schedule a little bit, like
Yeah, definitely.
because if you tweet 10 times a day or you post on Instagram once a day, all of a sudden you start to think that's what you should be doing with your music as well. I
Hmm.
actually think that that is a good influence, to a certain extent,
Can
but
be,
everything
yeah.
in moderation. And so like, but then at some point you really have to slow down and go, it, like there, no schedule should dictate the creative process.
Yeah, I believe in pressure a bit. I think pressure definitely
Yeah.
makes things happen
Are
and
you that
albums
person for
finish.
artists?
Yeah, I try to, I was gonna say gently pressure. That sounds weird,
Keep
but
them accountable?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a better way of putting it. Yeah, because I know I also have. I think I have these both sides of my brain that I can at least have the artist side and also like wag my finger at them when
Yeah.
they need to be
Yeah.
told what to do and
Yeah.
when to deliver and have the deadlines, and deadlines are something I believe in as well for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I agree.
it's not sexy stuff, but
Yeah. But it is like that final 25% is really, I think, where a label comes in, because
yeah.
and I think as you as an artist start to detach from your creation, and by the time it's mastered and you're starting to get artwork, you don't even want to think about it.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's totally okay and that's totally natural. There's that meme of like somebody like, should I complete one of my 100 projects or start like a one new project?
Yeah.
I think that's totally beautiful. It's a great part of the process, but you do still have to release stuff. I think that's also part of the process.
Release it and like champion it yourself as
Mm-hmm.
well. I think
Yeah.
a big part uh, I've really noticed in the last couple of years working with people is like, I don't know. I think I don't want to keep going back to streaming services and all that, but it's such a part that they've played and changed in that the expectation of, oh, if you get me on this playlist, then I'm good or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like we're overlooking the fact that like artists that you look up to and have reached a point that you want to reach to have worked so hard every day and like put themselves in those
All
positions
right.
that you're trying to be in.
That's
So
true. Yeah.
yeah, there's just been, I think I started mine through SoundCloud. Mainly that was where I sort of built a community and everything.
Take me back. My next question is about the genesis of your you as an independent artist, and
Mm.
then how it came up to creating secret songs.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me, releasing music and stuff is like around 2011, early 2012
Hmm.
is when I started to like, I got like a fader post and like stuff like that. I was just like making my own original music, but also doing like remixes and stuff at the time.
Right.
So I luckily kind of like set myself up for those like two different like avenues
Yeah.
to try to
Yeah.
make work, and both were kind of taking off decently at the same time. So from that I got like some random show offers and not big
Yeah.
stuff, but like stuff to get me out of my house and
Yeah.
whatever. And but that was all starting through MySpace originally, and then SoundCloud was just starting and like really people starting to use it around that time.
Right.
So I just, if I made something, I put it on SoundCloud that
Yeah.
day, and that is definitely something that I think the spontaneity of that, not overthinking
Yeah.
every aspect,
Yeah.
or is this mixed and mastered perfectly? Like at the time, didn't even know what mastering was. I was
Yeah.
just like
That's a
made,
great thing, I
made the
think.
song, put it
Yeah.
up, and I think people that allowed people to kind of appreciate like a bit more of rawness from, you know, sonically and like just the approach of releasing music for
Yeah.
artists and everything. So
SoundCloud has
yeah.
like a mastering component now, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if did people use it, or I don't know.
I think I uploaded something to SoundCloud recently. You could just hit like listen to their master
Oh, okay.
before you pay for it.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if I think I had uploaded just a unmastered like rough mix that I had been working on because I was sending it to someone else to listen to.
Mhm.
And so I thought, oh, that'd be cool to hear this master. And I mean, it was okay. It was just brighter and louder.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was great, but
Yeah. I mean, they were amazing starting out, and I owe so much to the platform. But I
yeah,
think the downfalls have definitely been not kind of being on that stuff sooner, and
yes,
supporting the
yeah.
community that created their following.
Yeah, I just felt like they never, and I mean, it's not my genre, so like I don't think a lot of my people are there. Like the people who like the stuff that I was doing were over there to
Right.
begin with. Maybe that was more happening at Bandcamp,
Mhm.
but I just never felt like that platform was doing things to like earn my business or to keep me there. I was always hitting my threshold really quickly of like my minutes, how many minutes I could upload.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was pretty absurd because Bandcamp didn't have that.
Yeah.
So there's just certain like kind of limitations to get to monetize me that I didn't think it was the best route.
It was great at the time to not, like, I wasn't even thinking about money at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it
Right.
was such a beautiful thing at
Right.
that time, where people also, the majority of us were releasing stuff on there that was not legally released. It's a lot
Right.
of bootlegs, and
True. Yeah.
think about, like, I was doing like Frank Ocean remixes and all this stuff, and like nothing was cleared.
Right.
And you think about like Kate Trinata and these artists who've really built their career from that. So yeah,
Sorry, I just want to
no worries.
I want my screensaver to go on. Yeah. So I actually want to ask you about SoundCloud a little bit later on because it is an interesting format. How did you? Okay, while we're on the topic, how do you did you ever think, or at a certain point, as you started to think, maybe I need to make some money or make a living,
Mm.
how did you like migrate SoundCloud people to elsewhere? Like, was because I always find like the SoundCloud people, and we've had a couple tracks that did really well, and I just feel like it's hard to interact with the audience there. Like they leave a comment.
Mhm.
There's tons of spam on there, like tons, at least from my perspective. How do you migrate those people and say, come follow us on Twitter or come to our website or, buy
Yeah.
product?
I mean, I guess that's what has, time has not been very favorable to the app or to the
Right.
platform in that way. Is
Right.
that it wasn't really, there was no spam originally or anything like
Oh,
that.
okay.
And that's
Okay.
just been overrun
Yeah.
completely. And, you used to be able to, just like repost so easily. And then I think that became, I mean, for a little while, I remember everyone was like, pay me $20 and I'll repost. Like that became like
Oh, right.
a
That's
whole
right. I remember that. Yeah.
monetization
Yeah.
business on its own, like mid 2010s.
Right.
And then that was like oversaturated very quickly. But yeah, I mean, I think it was just like a sort of lightning in a bottle couple years of like, at least for producers and like me in like their early 20s, like
Yeah.
doing this kind of music, having the audience that was in that kind of age range,
Mhm.
and not caring so much about buying music.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a big part, is that like I bought music growing up, but I also got really obsessed with downloading it and
Yeah.
finding these sort of cultures
Yes.
underneath, like
Yeah.
in soul
Totally.
seek and everything like that. So
I think I think it's still today is the best way to build a company, quote unquote, or a career is to just like concentrate on an audience and just
mhm,
not trying to get anything from them, just giving to them and
yeah,
celebrating something. And then you get to the point where you're on SoundCloud and you have hundreds of thousands of followers or whatever they are. And then maybe that's when you start to build something a little bit more predictable or tangible.
yeah.
I think it's great to just start by creating and being generous.
That's the way to do it. But yeah, once you start thinking about it and try to manifest that, then it becomes unnatural. The
Right.
second you start
Yeah,
realizing it,
that's true.
it's
Yeah,
so
that
hard
is
to.
true.
But I think that early 20s, late teens naivety of like, I'm just making stuff and putting it up
Right.
and people like it, cool. It's
Right.
like having that air of like carelessness a little
Right.
is that's always what's most appealing to people in that age range for sure.
So you're focusing on your own career then and you're getting these unreleased tracks sent to you. You want to advocate for them.
Mhm.
When did you say I need to create something official?
I think a big part of it too is that I was touring a lot by 2014, 2015.
Mhm.
So on those from those shows, I was playing a lot of these people's music as well, and I was like people are dancing, like
Yeah.
people like this music a lot, like, and like they don't even know like half these songs are unreleased by like some kid in Tokyo
Right.
or some kid in like New Mexico or
Yeah.
whatever. So it was just like, oh, there's definitely something here,
Mhm.
and I don't know anything about releasing music, but I'm down to try.
Yeah.
Like, and so I was releasing with Last Gang at that time.
Mhm.
I had like a couple album deal with them, but I was dealing directly with the A&R there, James Trousey, and he was just like such a supporter of me and my music and everything that I was like sharing with him of other people's stuff too. So he's like, yeah, like if you're, you know, I was already kind of like bouncing that idea of the label, and basically it just became like a imprint more or less under Last Gang.
Oh,
So I
okay.
used them as a distributor,
Okay.
but I was in like full control of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how did you balance like your own career with the label? Like was it equal or was one just a side project?
Um, I never, yeah, I don't know. It was always digital,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
as you know, that makes things a lot
Yeah.
easier
Yeah, that's great.
and takes a little less time. So yeah, I mean, at the time, this was still pre Spotify and everything,
Right.
so it was just like going on SoundCloud, and I was still growing that community
Yeah.
along with my own.
Yeah.
So it was kind of two different things in tandem, which is nice. And
Yeah.
then I started doing like some showcases, like label showcases, and like South by and North by and all of these.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah.
Yeah. What I love about your website, it's super clean, but I'm always amazed at how some labels' websites actually make it hard for me to hear the music. Whereas, like, when I went to your site, there's just three big album covers and a play button. It's super simple, but I think it's really important. Like, when you like voluntarily go to a label's website,
Yeah.
you want to hear something right away.
Yeah, I believe in that for sure. And it's also like if you're gonna make people click more than 2 times on your
Yeah.
web, they're gone.
Yeah,
So, like
absolutely.
patience is at an
Yeah.
all-time low for that. So yeah, I think and there's just random websites like I follow like some like a Japanese label that does like a very similar, layout of just like here's the music, here's some
Yeah.
nice art,
Yeah.
and if you like it, you can buy it here.
Well, I always tell labels on their website at the very least to embed like a Spotify playlist on of your label's artists right there, because some people will want to just click and listen.
Yeah.
And what I liked about yours was like there's play and then there was download, and so play and it had a play button. And I know we're getting into the weeds here, but that's what this show's about. But
Yeah.
like I was listening and instantly started streaming, and I was like, I like this a lot. So now, like that's like your first date or whatever, or you're meeting someone, you're seeing their picture or whatever, swiping, and
Mhm.
it's like now, like I actually want to download this to whatever platform, or if
Mhm.
I'm really crazy, I want to buy the record or whatever. And so I just like how simple that, like you can't give people decisions to
Yeah,
make.
I know.
And but it was like, I'm listening to this. This is beautiful. Now give it to me.
Yeah, and people are smart. Like I think it's this also,
That's true. Yeah.
I think that is overlooked as well in general.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's like I don't need to give you 5,000 links. You're gonna figure that part
That's
out
right.
yourself. So
Look at the band name and go to your platform and
Yeah.
search for it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I see it so many times. It's the paradox of choice where on like what you could have done is you could have put the album cover, you could have play, and then underneath every single platform, pre-order the vinyl, pre-order this
Sure,
variant
yeah.
with the t-shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no need.
That's overwhelming to me when when I find
Yeah.
a label I like, and
Yeah.
then but I do like to be overwhelmed in that way a
Right.
bit, but I don't think the average person is if they find something they like, it's a good song.
Well, I think when
then-
you click download on your website, then you're taken to a page with more information. You have
Yeah.
like a bio and you have different links and stuff.
Yeah.
That's fine. But initially, it's like if somebody wants that much information, you should be able to provide it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That information exists if you want to find it. Otherwise, here's the song, here's the download.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What is it about running a label that you like the most? Is it the curating? Is there a philanthropic component to you? Like utilizing your audience? I think you had said in an interview somewhere, like paying it forward, basically. Is it the marketing and the PR? Is it the website? Is it like, what is it? Something that you really like about
just
labels?
finding the music.
Yeah,
Really just
finding it,
finding
yeah.
the artist and hearing their demos for the first time or something and
Yeah.
being like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like just coming from, I feel like I come more from a musician, maybe A&R standpoint in
Right.
that way. I think every label owner or whatever has their skill sets, and some
Yeah.
people are great at PR
True,
or,
yeah.
telling a story. And
Yeah.
I feel like I probably lack in those departments, but I try to be more, hands-on with the artists. And
Right.
also like a lot of the people more and more in the last couple of years, I've slowed it down a bit, and I've also focused on, I guess, technically smaller artists. Like the other month I put out an artist's first project and first EP. So I really enjoy that.
Mhm.
It's just, people see that and think, oh, like maybe less is happening. And it's just more like, oh no, this is just more of a challenging
Right.
approach.
Yeah.
And it's more fun to me for that reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the same payoff as like finding someone that's buzzing already and then just signing them and
Oh, for
putting it
sure.
out,
Yeah. And that has like a ton of responsibility and
Mm.
expectations from everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, these artists that I work with in the last year or two, like, I'm telling them what publishing is, and
yeah,
I'm still, always learning a
yeah,
little more every day, but anything that I know, I'm trying to share that knowledge and like signing them up for a pro and all this
right.
stuff. Like
Yeah,
none of these things
no, that's
are even,
huge.
yeah.
And it doesn't take, I've realized this too in this industry, is like there are no experts. Like
Mhm,
there might be one or two,
mhm.
but it's like what younger artists or up and coming artists need is someone who's just like 3 or 4 weeks ahead of them. Like someone who's like done,
Yeah,
like registering for a pro is like, that's kind of tricky. It's confusing. What are we
yeah.
doing here?
It's
Like
not fun.
it's not fun at all. Yeah. Anything publishing, I don't enjoy at all. But yeah, but like if you have done that, I mean, I remember that back in the day when I got started, it was like figuring out how to make CDs. That was still very mysterious. And
Mhm.
so I spent hours on the phone and on websites getting quotes and figuring it out. But as soon as I had figured out, I now permanently knew the best option. So
Yeah,
any artist, I was really only 2 weeks ahead of them, but like I could save them all that time.
exactly. That isn't to answer your question, I guess that's a really great feeling. Maybe one of the best is when you've got the answer to like a new
Yeah,
artist question,
yeah,
and they're like, "Oh, okay, thank you for this." Like
right. That's
now
right.
I don't need like learn from my mistakes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I always have to remind myself, and I've done episodes on this too, where like you have to like assume they know nothing, not in a condescending way,
Mhm.
but like sometimes like you have to don't think that they're as obsessed about the business side as you maybe are.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
then and they will ask a question, you'll be like, "Oh, we need to go right back to the beginning and
Mhm.
talk about what publishing is or talk about what distribution is."
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an age thing too. Is like early 20s, I did not care about this stuff at
That's right.
all, and
That's true. Yeah.
unfortunately now this stuff is kind of interesting to me. So
Yeah. It's because it's like a modicum of a check that comes every 6 months. And
exactly,
so
yeah.
once that gets to be like a decent size that you can go out for dinner, that's when you start to pay
Yeah,
attention
that's
to
true.
it. It was, I think it was Sound Exchange payment day yesterday.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
very fun.
Yeah, that's
It's a
why
fun
I'm a
day.
little happier today than I was yesterday.
um, that's why I'm like a medium mood.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I couldn't actually understand it. I'm like, how much money am I getting? I just could not understand it.
Also, every time I get that, I think I reply, "Is this a direct deposit? How
Right.
does this work again?"
Yeah. Well, I just set up for direct deposit
Oh,
a
that's
couple
good.
weeks ago and they were trying to get it before the new payment comes. So I have to check if it's coming or if it comes in the
I'm
mail.
still doing the mail, so I'll look into
Okay.
that next
And it's
time.
American funds too, which is kind of
Yeah,
nice.
that's definitely nice.
Um, yeah, but it's like that's like something you can't bank on. Like if you're hoping to pay the mortgage, you can't wait for 6 months to when that
No,
comes.
and I don't even so much of that. Luckily, that is a sort of a silver lining with my brain is that I forget about Sound Exchange until it shows up, or
Yeah.
all those other things. Like, so I just try to do a lot every day, and
All
then
right.
hopefully one of those many things leads somewhere.
Yeah, and that is totally my mentality with like the online world and even with music is like
Mm,
it might be a cover song that breaks through. It might be,
yeah.
one of your old tracks that's picked up somewhere. I had like a 10-year-old track that was picked up on a yoga app. And that was my Sound Exchange check at Christmas was really good because of this yoga app. And Liz was like, "Oh, is that going to be all the time?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. I don't know who they are. Like, probably not, but you
Yeah.
never know." But that's it. Flood the world with
Santa
like,
has more gifts that year.
yeah. I'm gonna walk by your house to see how big your check was. If you
Yeah.
if you have some sort of like new windows or something, or
That
freshly
Porsche
paved
wasn't there
driveway.
last
Yeah,
year.
that Porsche. um. Okay, we're off track here. Do you have help at all with the label?
Um, for the most part, it's like I try to do everything myself, but I have my manager Matt who
Yeah.
any kind of questions I need to bounce off of.
Okay.
He's always there for that. Um, It's basically just me though. Yeah, now I'm using Warp as distribution,
Okay,
so I
I think
kind
I
of
clicked through that somewhere and saw that.
yeah, and
That's
they've been
awesome.
great to deal with. There's kind of a main guy there, Abdullah, who's
That's
like sort of
awesome.
a general project manager, and yeah, he's another one. It's just like I I want to do everything myself, but there's definitely just so many
Right,
points in a week where you're just like I don't know the answer to this thing.
right.
So yeah.
And do you, with your artists, do you get them a publishing deal, or do you recommend, or like,
Um, once in a while, yeah, that has kind of led to that.
yeah,
There's been a lot of different random situations. I've found that I sign and release a lot of people who a year later sign to a really big label and blow up.
oh,
So
really?
I'm pretty good at like sniffing out talent and then
I
losing
actually
it.
think other people are good at sniffing out what you do.
Yeah,
That's probably more.
yeah. So that's I mean that happened a couple times, and
Are you
then
happy about that?
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, when I started, it was I just wanted it to be a stepping stone. Like I
Yeah,
told
yeah,
anybody I signed, I was like,
yeah,
I want good things for you.
yeah,
I definitely don't love if the next label hits me up and they're like, "Can you remove this song that you released so we can act like the artist has never released music
yeah. I've
before?"
seen
Because
that
that's
before. Yeah,
definitely happened,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's nothing to do with the artist, though. So
Not
yeah,
only that, but when a press release comes out, I've seen this twice, but when a press release comes out and they don't mention their first label, like they
yeah,
press
yeah,
release from the new
yeah,
label,
yeah, and
that
it's like
always,
a
yeah.
debut release or whatever they say.
We had an artist on this label who got signed to a bigger label, and th- they were, so we're a Canadian label, and I have sent everything we do to a local publication, in Toronto, you
Mm,
can imagine, and never received any coverage, maybe once.
yeah,
And then this artist, like their first album on an American label, got a huge, incredibly glowing
that's how it
review
goes. Yeah.
from this Toronto publication, and they didn't mention like the fact that they were on a Canadian label before. That's so
No,
frustrating.
man, it's that is beyond labels and stuff, and just being like someone who's trying to make a name for themselves in
Yeah,
whatever capacity from Canada. Like
yeah,
that's just a constant struggle
yeah,
because like you have to leave for sure to be of interest to anybody. Like
yeah.
there's a it's not everybody. I'm generalizing, but it does feel that way, kind of. When
Well,
you're
it feels like, yeah, and this is very niche for Canadian artists and labels, but it is, I'm sure actually maybe other places in the world too, but there is like this automatic validation that you get as soon as you get on an American label or American
yeah.
press or something.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate that you kind of feel like you're kicked out a little in that way to like
Mm,
go tour and do all this and that, and then yeah, you come back and people love you because like you've
right. Right.
you've done something and you've come back or whatever.
Right.
But yeah,
There's like a notorious something like, this was like maybe 20 years ago, but Kathleen Edwards, when
hmm,
she had a record out in Canada, and I don't think she had got much press, and then she did Letterman,
yeah,
and then everybody back home
yeah,
was like talking about her and bragging about her, and she basically kind of like lost it on like the local press, was saying like, you've ignored me, then I do Letterman, and then you review my record.
yeah. It's I don't know what it is exactly. Maybe the ceiling here feels so low because we're just used to like, oh, we're Canada,
Yeah, that's
we're
true. Yeah, there's a humility, or like, yeah.
so it's sort of like we don't even expect that much of each other
Yeah.
sometimes.
Right.
Like maybe there's something to that, but
Yeah.
that's unfortunate, that we have to like start from that point and work from there.
Well, I think not Canadians, but everybody is shallow to a certain extent. And so
Sure.
if there's like a blue check next to your name, then that obviously means I should pay a little bit more attention. And
Hmm.
if you have a Juno Award, congrats. Then you pay attention a little bit more. You're like, oh, this
Yeah.
person might have something important to say. And I
Yeah.
think we're just shallow.
Oh yeah. No denying that. Humanity is shallow.
So today, I don't know where we left off with SoundCloud, but how
Right.
do you find artists to work with now? I imagine it's artists you admire or if you've worked with. Or are you still like, are you doing deep dives on SoundCloud and Bandcamp
Definitely, yeah, still doing that.
or submissions?
Yeah, it's just kind of all the above.
Yeah.
And through all of that, constantly, then something comes up where I'm like, oh, this is weird and exciting and
Yeah.
different. And I haven't heard of this person. And yeah, maybe they have an interesting story. Like all of these things kind of might catch your attention. And maybe one side does, and the music could, like be changed slightly or whatever.
That's a great point.
Um, and I'll have those conversations too if it seems warranted. I'm also not trying to be like change this
Yeah.
snare on this
Yeah.
song or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, also a lot of that then ends up being like, oh, maybe they were already self-conscious about their mix, or they've never
Yes.
worked with the engineer for mastering.
Yeah.
And I also enjoy, I think connecting the dots is like in general is definitely a part that I
Oh,
love with labels. So
yeah. I
I've got
totally
like
agree.
engineers and
Yeah.
visual artists that I love to like, you seem to like this style, and I know this person like in London that does like claymation. So
Yeah.
you're gonna like work with
Oh,
them. And
that's awesome.
so that's super fun for sure. And yeah,
I love saving artists money. That's, I think, one of the
that
best
too.
parts
Yeah,
is like they tell me I was just about to go pay $300 a song to have this album mastered. And I'm like, hold on, we
Mhm.
have another solution or
That
something, you know?
that also is something I guess I never even think about too much is, but like from starting the label or whatever, I don't think anyone owes me anything. Like
Mm,
anything that we've worked on for a release, like if it's a video or mastering, like
yeah.
I just cover that. And I don't usually ask for any kind of recoupment or whatever.
Oh,
It's
really?
like
Oh, that's nice.
because I keep things real,
Keep it simple.
trim,
Yeah.
and I've got my people that I work with, and I get generally pretty good deals or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
that's like money beyond talking about publishing or whatever. Nobody
Right.
wants to like deal with that shit or
Yeah.
be owing if it's their first release and they don't know if anything's going to come from it.
Yeah.
So
Well, and also, if you can afford that, I think it's great to put your money where your mouth is or where your heart is, because
yeah,
it's saying like, I think this needs a claymation video,
yeah,
but I don't want to put that on you to have to, because if it's a $2,000 or $5,000 video, you might be fronting the money, but at the end of the day, it's still their money.
yeah,
And
sure.
and so
Yeah, I
um,
mean, end of the day, there's still through streams and everything.
that's
It
right.
all
And
adds
so
up.
for
But
you to kind of peer pressure them into making a video or something,
yeah,
that's great that you do that.
for sure. Yeah, no, I think that's a huge part that people are scared of talking about too, for
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
and I always was approaching a label, so get that.
Well, I think that, and a lot of label owners I've talked to are this way as well. And you might not want to say this about yourself, but I think a lot of labels are like it's a bit of a charity. It's a bit of
Hmm.
there's a goodwill, a philanthropic component to it where you're giving back to artists and you're paying out of pocket because you believe in them
Hmm.
or for whatever reason. I hear that all the time from labels, and I don't think labels actually say that, but you can see it in how they
Yeah.
treat finances.
Yeah, I mean, money, energy, time, that
Mhm.
we're putting all
True.
that
Yeah.
into it. And,
Yeah.
with, that's that's going into it. If you're starting a label or whatever, I think you definitely need to understand those basics.
Hmm.
And if you can do that and be satisfied,
Yeah.
then yeah, it's probably the thing to do. But
It is your have you evolved from just digital, or what dictates, what type of release? Because from what I see, it's not that traditional pre-order your deluxe vinyl plus t-shirt type of label,
yeah.
like you've done things your own way.
Yeah, I mean, I've done kind of a handful of releases that we did vinyl for, and
Yeah.
and that was, kind of a whole other experience that it all works out in the end. But sometimes through it, I'm like, I just kind of miss like
Yeah. Yeah.
focusing on the nuts and bolts
Yeah.
and like putting more energy into making the perfect sort of thing for them to live online in the most part. I think is okay because a lot of these artists are so young and like that's priority to them.
Yeah.
Like vinyl is definitely exciting for anybody just to have a physical product,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just have always been I've always gravitated towards that kind of process.
Yeah. Was there things about traditional labels? I mean, not necessarily like a label that you had worked with or a bad experience, but were there things about traditional labels that you said right from the start, I don't want to do this with my label. I want my label to be different.
I mean, like 6-month rollouts and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, definitely, that was another part is just like
Being more flexible.
being, yeah, able to. I mean, early on, a lot of the stuff it started as like a singles thing, like
Right.
I think it was bi-weekly or bi-monthly. It was a new single from a
Right.
different artist from a different country or whatever, more or
Yeah.
less. Um, and that was sometimes they'd send me the song, and then I'd be like, okay, 3 weeks we're putting this out, and we'll
Mhm.
find the artist to do
Yeah.
the art, and
Yeah.
we'll figure out who's going to post it, hopefully, or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was for sure like, and that made them excited, you know. So I think having that, maintaining that spontaneity, even though rollouts are, you know, necessary for
Yeah.
bigger projects and all
Yeah.
this stuff, but you know, that can also deflate artists for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, I never wanted to um, ruin the morale or anything like that.
Right, right. Is SoundCloud still a part of things, or what's happened with that?
I mean, every release I put up there, and I'm always surprised, like, oh, it still gets plays and
Right.
stuff. That's
Yeah.
great to see for sure. I guess I just don't really actively kind of engage with the
Right.
community that
Yeah.
much. Unfortunately, it just doesn't feel first nature anymore.
Right.
I'm still kind of, you know, ever present on Twitter and everything like
Yeah.
that, and that's always felt like the sort of necessary component for what I've done is like staying directly in touch with people, and
Right.
yeah.
And I think that really the diehard fans have followed you on every platform, or they've subscribed to you at some.
I just gotta get on TikTok. It's
You're not on TikTok?
it's been hard to
Is
get
Yeah.
on there myself.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I love it. I follow people with like a burner account, but I just
Yeah, yeah, same. I started it for about a week, and I thought I just don't have the energy for this. And I also don't like I'm not on the platform because I don't need another thing to like consume me.
yeah, I mean, you can definitely feel the brain rot slowly
Yeah.
happening in real time, but you know, I kind of welcome that as
Yeah.
well.
I think it's frustrating because like you do Twitter well, you do Instagram well, you start to master these things. I feel it for YouTubers as well. And then something new comes along, and you're going to be inevitably late to it.
Yeah,
And it's
totally.
like I just started figuring out Instagram.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm definitely at that point, and I definitely with 31 now, I just feel like it's sort of that age where, oh, I'm like maybe losing a little touch in like
Yeah.
trying to, like, when you're early 20s, it's just like, oh, I don't care about what I
Yeah.
post or what I
Yeah.
do or whatever, like online. And and yeah, now I'm sort of like, I don't think I have that much interesting stuff to say. So
Right.
I still focus on like the music and everything, and promoting that as I can in the least boring way. But
Yeah. I think with TikTok, like I don't really know the platform, and I don't know like what other people are doing, but I don't have the creativity, the energy to be funny every day. Like
I'm
I don't.
definitely more of a spectator in that way. So
Right.
I love like, yeah, finding people that are, you know, good at it. But yeah, I'm just like, oh man, I'm not as funny as these 10 other people that
Right.
I follow. So
I as a spectator, I don't like the platform because I don't find it very elegant. I find it like extremely noisy, and uh whereas like when Instagram came on, it was all about the grid, and it was very had a lot of class and a lot of style on there.
they
Whereas TikTok is just
got no class.
no, I don't mean that, but you know what I mean.
No, but
It's
like
like
when you,
Saturday morning cartoons, really.
well, you open the app and it's screaming at you
I
instantly. So I
know.
think
Yeah.
that's like kind of the difference.
That was when I
Right?
when I actually was like, okay, I'm done with this, because it was like 11 o'clock at night, and you open it, yeah, and something.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I guess to bring it back to what we're talking about, like it's just now another component where labels are like, okay, we got to get this song going on TikTok or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, you don't know how to do that. Like,
Yes.
no one really knows how to do
Right.
that. You can pay a bunch of dancers to like make a challenge or something, but that's
Yeah.
not nothing's guaranteed.
I when I had a single out recently, I thought, well, I wonder, like there's these influencers on Instagram who have, half a million followers and they're really niched in a lot of areas. And I thought, okay, what about someone who's like, an outdoors traveler or something? My music would fit perfectly with a
Mhm.
traveler. And so, what if, like, they're obviously doing sponsored posts all the time? Would it be in my best interest to pay them X amount of dollars to share this track, or even just on one of their like drone shots to
Oh,
play one
sure.
of my tracks? And so I reached out to one person on their website and I never heard back. And then I just kind of chickened out from it. I thought, I don't, first of all, I don't want to be rejected. But
By an influencer?
by influencer. Well, yeah, I just like I'm reaching out to like a 21-year-old girl who's backpacking across the world and she ignores me and I'm like, no, you know what? This is too much. I, I can't handle this.
Yeah, no, I've gone through that stuff as well. Like with my last album, there was definitely like, okay, we got like a little budget to like, try to find these like TikTok dancers
Yeah.
or whatever, and they would reach out to one person. They're like, "Yeah, 10K for this or whatever,"
Oh my
and they're
gosh.
like, "Oh yeah, of course, obviously."
Yeah.
Like it's you're trying to like influence an entire culture to like your song or whatever. It
Yeah.
makes sense, but yeah, that part of the process I've definitely not enjoyed, and I'm not really interested in.
That's right. And it's like it's a crapshoot. You really don't know if the influencer is legit as well.
Sure.
And I felt like my approach was a lot more authentic because I felt like their audience and my audience would really complement each other. It's kind of like the
Mhm.
way that like an outdoorsy person can advertise like a jacket company or a sweatshirt company
For sure.
because they're into the similar things. And so I thought that might be a good entry point, for music. um I don't know, I think there might be still something there, but it's like I don't know what my budget is, because really
Mhm.
what you're hoping is, like, if somebody charged me $500, how can I measure if that was a good investment?
Yeah.
They really need to bring me like 100,000 streams.
Yeah. And
So it's
that's
tricky.
another part of it that's yeah, none of it's guaranteed in that way. And I think, yeah, it's so easy for label people or whatever just to be like, okay, we'll get this person that has 1 million followers and we'll recoup our money and everybody will be happy. And
Yeah,
like,
that's
no,
true.
I mean, maybe people don't care about the song and they just like the dance that the person does or
Yeah,
whatever. Like,
yeah. Oh man,
yeah,
that
it's
that part
very
is,
easy to overthink this stuff. So
yeah.
I feel like yeah, I mean, that's definitely where some days if I think about that too much, I'm like, "Oh, I'm nostalgic for the SoundCloud days when nobody gave
Yeah,
a crap about all
yeah.
that." But, you
But
know
then people in 20 years are gonna be like, I'm nostalgic for the TikTok
oh,
days
yeah, for
when things were a
sure.
lot easier.
Yeah, so, it's just keeping up with the right stuff, I think, and, all of these apps are gonna be gone, and then there will be different ones, so
Yeah.
you can't commit too much to one anyway, I
And
think.
really it comes down to like good songs and people having like intimate connections with these songs. And
Yeah.
the things that have been the most beneficial to me is like songs that are good and that have carried themselves and spread on their own.
Mhm.
And I've definitely gotten lucky. I've known a guy who's worked at this company who's placed me on this thing, and that's worked for a season.
Mhm.
It doesn't work anymore. They're gone, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the best part is that slow little follower count that goes up and up and up. And
Yeah.
people who on release day, if you have 100 people who are legitimately excited about your release,
Mhm.
that's the real thing. Anything else, it's so fleeting, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like, with the paid influencer stuff or the playlisting that everybody's just like dying to get on any playlist on Spotify over 100,000 or whatever, because then they're gonna, break through.
Yeah.
Like, maybe for a couple random artists that happens, but it's like that's not active followers or
Right.
active fans, you know? They're just I mean, a lot of that play is from like cafes and restaurants and
Yeah,
stuff. So
it's
like
true.
you gotta be like realistic. Like the I think unfortunately stats becoming so upfront
Right.
has definitely changed our perspective of like, oh well, my song has 1 million plays, so I'm like I'm big now.
Yeah,
It's like,
I know.
you know, Baby Shark has 300 trillion
Billions.
plays. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
I don't
That's a
know.
great song, though.
Yeah, it's a
It's
hit.
a well, and now they've done the play counts on every track. Have you seen that on the albums?
No.
So if you expand an album, it used to be just your top 5 songs or top 10
Oh
songs.
yeah,
So
yeah,
now
yeah.
when you click on an album, there's a play count next to every song, which is crazy, and it's
In the most basic way, I definitely get it as a listener, like, oh, this song has most plays, so I
right,
it's probably very good.
right.
But beyond that, the stats just seem so unnecessary for like an average listener. Like
Yes,
it
yes,
really should only be useful for like a label or like an agent. Like, oh, you have this many plays in,
right.
Spain, so let's do a tour there or whatever. Like
Yeah. But
that's
now
where
I
it's
don't even
useful.
know if that's legitimate anymore because if you
Mm,
just get placed on
true.
a European
Yeah.
playlist, then
Yep.
yeah, I saw like I had my most plays were in Montreal, and somebody mentioned to me, it's like you should really play some shows in Montreal. And I was like, I don't know any of those people. I don't think I could really go and book a club, and all those
Mm.
people would come out. Who knows where that came from?
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
you
know.
gotta be casting a wide net already to
That's right.
then
Yeah.
try to,
Yeah.
zoom in on that and get at least 500 people of those.
I don't know why the numbers are so important to Spotify. I don't know why they seem to be pushing that because at the end of the year, when they do that thing where they get everyone to share it, now they're doing it
Mhm.
at the halfway mark about how absurd your things are. And then, of course,
Yeah.
Spotify are for artists. All of us are logging into that every morning
Yeah.
on the toilet. And it's like, I don't know what the obsession is with pushing those numbers.
Oh, man, it's all capitalist. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
but honestly, it's just, like it creates this competition between everyone and then yeah, between artists or listeners. Like I feel like yeah, this thing that's constantly rolling out now where it's like your taste is great. You want to know how great your taste is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, it just feels kind of like gaslighting or something. It's
Right.
like you chose like we have all this, but you chose it, and
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It just feels like it's getting kind of sus.
Well, I still primarily use Apple Music and or use iTunes for my whole collection, but whenever those Spotify trends come out, those numbers come out, they're completely irrelevant because it's mostly just my own music or artists on my label and then whatever my kids are listening to. It's just like Baby Shark and then my own tracks.
Same, yeah.
So,
Everybody's sharing their
yeah.
accounts, so it's
Yeah,
all
exactly.
skewed
Yeah,
anyway.
it's totally skewed. I would like to see. Do you remember Last FM? Like that was
Yeah,
more
sure.
accurate.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and that felt not as competitive for
No,
some
it
reason.
was super private.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody told me recently on the show, I think actually, that they still have Last FM connected to their computer and they have like 10, 15 years of data of what they've listened
The
to.
last FM.
Yeah, the last. Was that what it was called? Last FM? Or am I?
It was, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I was just getting it mixed up with all the other companies that have come and gone.
Yeah.
What is the future for the label? The label just like kind of walks in tandem with you, or do you have dreams of growing it into being something different?
I'm trying to get someone else involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm finally like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a little less stubborn and
Yeah.
yeah, just have a general like actual project manager
Yeah. Okay.
on the
That's
side of the
cool.
label. And
Yeah.
because yeah, there's definitely moments where I'm just on my emails and I'm like, I don't, this part's definitely really sucks right now
Yeah.
where I'm just like deep into
Right.
the weeds with it. And,
Right.
and it's just, stuff that, if you're finding artists and, helping them out in every capacity, I feel like, yeah, you got to find a way to, spread out what you're doing and
Yeah.
not hating it at the end of the day.
I forgot to ask you this. Are you involved in the recording process or mixing process with the artists? Do you have a preference?
Not so much. I have randomly, I've mastered stuff randomly for people that weren't as picky with it and they said, and they requested it or whatever. But yeah, for the most part, I have sort of like 3 really great like mastering engineers that I bounce between that are, if one's busy, I'll hit up the other. But people I trust and who specialize in like, this guy's good at dance and this guy's good at more headphone music or whatever. So
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I try to keep it kind of separate in that way. For the most part,
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, I do hope, like, I think a label manager is great. I always feel bad, like, I'm either sacrificing my own creative process and my own music, I'm sure you feel the same way, or you're sacrificing doing something that should be done for their release.
Yeah, it's a real like tug of war for sure.
Yeah,
and that's keeps it exciting because it feels like you're always got something to do.
Yeah,
but
true.
Some days that just it feels like something's got to give. So I try not to disappoint. I'd rather disappoint myself a little than like the artist that I'm working with or whatever.
I love what you said at the beginning, as I feel this too, is that discovery moment. There is this incredible feeling of finding an artist that no one has heard of other than their close friends. And just that little couple of weeks window where it's just you and them. And you feel like you might be like kind of exaggerating to yourself, but you feel like you're sitting on something life-changing.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the kind of essence of that. Yeah. What I'm looking for. Always that feeling, chasing that feeling.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, it's actually very similar to, like, as a music fan, every time I check out a new record, there is that little feeling of like, will this be the record that I listen to for the next 3 months? And will this be in my top 10 and top 25 records of all time? Every time somebody tweets about a record or posts it, or I go to New Release Friday and I listen to something, there is that potential. And that's why I always click on something. And the same feeling with discovering a new artist.
Yeah. And I try to approach it when I'm finding someone or checking out their demos or whatever, like really enter that mindset of just, being a fan or opening Spotify and listening to something. And it's, I think probably the further along you go, it's harder to maintain that sort of naivety. But like, I think if you can still approach with that mindset a bit, it definitely, like, is it something that, I'm going to really love and like listen to regardless of if I'm involved or not.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah.
It's been good to chat with you.
You too, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you all for listening. You can find out more about Ryan's label, Secret Songs, by going to shhsecretsongs.com. You can just Google Secret Songs and you'll find it. Also, like I mentioned at the top of the episode, for all of our new and our faithful listeners, you grab all of our resources at otherrecordlabels.com. If you haven't been there in a while, it's been updated. There's been some new things kind of quietly added. So visit otherrecordlabels.com for all of your independent record label needs. Thank you so much for being a listener.